Welcome to Alpha Wolf Capital. I'm Tim, and I want to personally thank you for stopping by. This channel is designed to help small companies, both public and private, gain exposure with potential consumers, investors, even partners. Take, for example, today's guest, CEO Sam Rubin of Lightpath Technologies. Lightpath Technologies is a leading provider of next generation optics and imaging systems for defense and commercial applications. Multi-billion dollar market in defense and commercial applications for infrared imaging systems. They're a provider of high value optical solutions and imaging systems. They have a proprietary chalcogenide glass solution, which is the only glass that enables use of multispectral cameras, reducing the size, weight, and cost of systems without using germanium. They have defense contract tailwinds, accelerating pipeline. They have new commercial applications for boiler and furnace optical gas imaging and automotive sectors with the capabilities to manufacture and drive revenue in excess of $300 million in 5 years. But I'll let Sam tell you more about that in just a moment. This is not to be taken as investment advice. I am not a certified financial planner. This is for education and entertainment purposes only. I encourage everyone to do their own due diligence. Hey everybody, Tim from Alpha Wolf Capital coming at you with a follow-up interview to a fantastic story that has had a very big move in a very short period of time, but I think there's definitely some very good reasoning behind it. We've got Sam Rubin here from Lightpath Technologies. Sam is one of my favorites because he came into a position at a company that it was not an ideal time to come in.
You're being very polite, yeah.
And boy, what a difference in company as I look back at when you first came in. And you came in right before COVID hit.
Yeah.
I would suggest that if it would have been anybody else that would have come in and taken over that mess, probably wouldn't be here today.
Very likely, yeah.
Right? I mean, I really see how the company could have survived. But you came in, and I want everybody to understand, because I just listened to another podcast on your background, and I knew that you were in, I mean, I knew that optics were your thing. I didn't realize that it was in your DNA.
Yeah.
All right, Sam Rubin, Lightpath, thanks for coming in. Why don't you give us a little bit of a fill-in as to why exactly I say that?
Yeah, absolutely. So Lightpath, has been around for a long time, but has been around really with a strategy of being a low-cost component provider. And while it had some great technologies and has an incredible name, the ability to scale that component business to anything meaningful was very, very challenging. When I came on board for nearly 5 years ago, actually, wow, COVID was 5 years ago. Can you believe it? Yeah. When I came on board, we've completely changed the direction of the company. We've taken a lot of our core capabilities, turned them into unique differentiators that allowed us to finally step out of that component business and become much more than that. We've gone from selling lenses for $30, $3 to selling cameras for $30,000. We've gone from, struggling on commoditized components where overnight there's 30 new competitors in China that are willing to sell at cost or even below cost sometimes, to now a market where we have exclusive capabilities for made in the USA glass that replaces germanium. We have, exclusive cameras that can replace very, very high-end cameras at a much lower cost. And so we've been able to take the company from, a downward spiral of literally a red ocean, if you would, of prices just keep going down, down, down on the commoditized lenses, to leverage those into real differentiators that allow us to create significant value to the customers, but more importantly, capture that value, right? I mean, no strategy is worth anything if you create value, but you can't capture it in the form of profits. And now we're creating real value, but we're capturing it in improving margins in soon to be profitable company.
And that's where the DNA thing comes into play.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
why I say if it wasn't you, even if it was a good operator, I think it would have been because a good operator coming in
Yeah.
and somebody with a vision to take the company where it's gone is a whole different thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I grew up in optics. In fact, my father was a reseller of Lightpath lenses 30 years ago. So when I was a teenager, I was already messing around with optics thanks to my dad. And from there, the path was just natural for me to always be in optics, always work in optics. A startup company I hadn't sold, turnaround of other optics companies, building operations from scratch, everything has always been around this.
And then working for some rather large optics companies prior
Yeah,
to
yeah. The last role I had as general manager of Four Labs, Four Labs was a $500 million company when I left. So, while I love running a $35 million company, my bread and butter, what I do best in day to day is much larger companies, and that's where I'm taking Lightpath. I didn't come into Lightpath to grow a $35 million company into a $40 million company. I came to take a $35 million company into 150 million and beyond.
right. So the stock has definitely reacted recently. I think part of that is a big part of it, and this is one I've been waiting to kick in, was the germanium
Yeah,
BD6, right?
yeah, yeah,
Uh, you got China probably because of the administration that's about to take office, kind of positioning and messing around with rare minerals,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Blocking us off from germanium, which is used for semiconductors, which is used for scopes and infrared, right?
Yeah. The funny thing is, everyone talks about germanium for semiconductors, but in fact, semiconductors only utilize about 15% of all the germanium. So 15% of the germanium coming into the US goes to semiconductors, while to optics, it's 30 to 40%. So you would think, why is everyone talking about semiconductors if most of the germanium, twice as much, goes to optics? The reason is semiconductors has no alternative to germanium. The chips that are designed with germanium, you can't just put in a different material and keep manufacturing. Optics has an alternative. The black diamond glass that Lightpath makes is an alternative to germanium. So while the optics pain might be twice as much economically, potentially, there is a solution there. And that solution is there because we've been working with Department of Defense on this for a few years now. We have an exclusive license from the government for alternative materials that were developed at naval research laboratories. We have received funding and worked very closely with Defense Logistics Agency. That's part of Department of Defense that's responsible for making sure materials are always available. And we've been commercializing and qualifying these new materials to a point that we're now ready and just in time, I would say, because demand, since China announced the new restrictions, demand has been overwhelming to us. I mean, we're seeing customers now that a year ago we were pushing to them our black diamond, saying, "Hey, you guys should really consider this instead of germanium," and them saying, "No, we really still have germanium. It's not a problem." These customers are now calling us, asking, "Well, how quickly can you, redesign my system to use black diamond instead of germanium?" We're seeing to a point that we might need to double our manufacturing capacity of black diamond soon. So that's just how much overwhelmed the market has been.
So everybody that hears that, the first thing they're going to think is, "Oh my God!" how much is that going to cost? What's the capex on that?
So the capex is not massive, actually. Doubling capacity just of the glass manufacturing is maybe $500,000. It's not an enormous part. Part of it is paid by the government also. What I would caution is doubling the capacity of glass manufacturing doesn't double our top line sales overnight. So, it's definitely going to drive considerable growth, but don't take what I'm saying as hearing that, tomorrow we're going to double our sales.
Right, right. But there's enough, you're seeing enough demand that you're looking ahead. You're looking ahead and saying, okay.
Until now, to give you a perspective, until now, when people talked about using black diamond instead of germanium, they talked about lenses. Can I change my lens material to be black diamond instead of germanium? What people weren't talking about was the windows. At the very front of every camera, of every device, is usually a protective window. And until now, no one was really thinking of making those windows from black diamond. Now what we're seeing is a overwhelming demand of customers to replace germanium windows with black diamond. And the reason was, up until not long ago, black diamond was not necessarily mature enough, strong enough mechanically, and manufacturing readiness sufficient to really go and replace the most resistant part of your camera, which is the front window, the one that needs to protect you from, material flying around, from rain, from things. Black diamond has come such a long way that now our customers are starting to replace the windows, the protective windows, with black diamond. This is a material that 3 years ago customers felt like, might be too soft, might be too brittle, might not be good. But our diamond-like carbon coating, our DLC coatings that we do on the front of the material, is just so strong and so resistant that customers are now starting to replace germanium windows with black diamond windows, thanks to that coating.
Got it. And that's that. I mean, that part I didn't even know. That's new to me. So that's exciting, man. Right? I mean,
it is. It's I feel like I need to walk around with a T-shirt saying "I told you so," but there's nothing, there's nothing good about bragging about that. What we need to do now is focus down on delivering, and on turning this into better margins, which will drive profitability. I mean, we plan on turning profitable in the next 12 months. So that's another milestone for us. Yeah.
Right. So the thing that I really want to pound home too is that this BD6 is manufactured where?
In the USA, completely made in the USA, with materials that do not depend on China.
Right.
So 100% made in the USA, processed in the USA. We can do it beginning to end, all the way to the final camera system, like the Lockheed Martin project that we're doing, where we're designing a camera system that will go into a next generation missile that, if it goes into production, if Lockheed Martin wins this, for us, it means between $50 to $100 million a year of revenue. I mean, this is for a company doing today 35, right? You would think, wow, that's amazing, right? But you know what the thing, Tim, is? This isn't the only thing. That's only one of 3 big drivers that we have. So it's not like we even depend just on that massive $50 to $100 million a year of Lockheed. We have the replacement of germanium. We have cameras that we're making now that sell for $30,000 a camera, The math is completely different in growth when you're selling a $30,000 camera than when you're selling a $30 lens. Right. I mean, your ability to grow the top line is just phenomenal. The more you go up, I mean, it sounds so obvious.
So for some $30,000 camera, they're sitting here going, who the hell is buying a $30,000 camera? Right? But you're playing in a field where those cameras actually are the $100,000.
$100,000 to $150,000. So, and the same as with the gas detection camera, right? We're making a camera that can detect gas leaks for $10,000. Wow, I mean, you'd think that's a lot, right? For again, same thing. But when your alternative is a $100,000 camera, suddenly, if you're a operator of a gas field or a pipeline, you go from in your capital budget buying one camera that you're just going to move around and go periodically test one place after another to be able with the same capital budget buy 10 cameras that you can install stationary, and that is going to be the requirement soon. The new EPA regulations that came into effect last year is requiring that very soon every shell wellhead is going to have a camera next to it that's going to detect any leaks from it. And there are tens of thousands of capped wellheads from the shell drilling that need monitoring. This is a massive market that if we can come and do this now with a $10,000 camera instead of a $100,000 camera, we can completely change the economics of that market.
Right. Right. I mean,
It's
just out of curiosity, where are those cameras made?
also everything in the USA. We have gone from, anyone that you might have some listeners that know Lightpath LPTH from years ago. And years ago, the company was focused on low-cost manufacturing, on China manufacturing, on sales in China. That's all behind us. The China operation is something like 8% of the business, is very, very small. The last quarter, nearly 70% of our revenue came from the USA. We've tripled our manufacturing footprint in the USA with an investment that we made over the last 2 years. We are focused on made in the USA. We acquired a company in Texas. We make the glass, we polish lenses, we build assemblies, we build and calibrate the complete camera systems, all here in Orlando, beginning to end. So it's a completely different company to anyone that might have known it from its past.
So I'm glad you just brought that up because I want to, you know what? I think I'm gonna try something here. I'm gonna show some people some stuff. So how long have I been following Lightpath? Wow, long time. Because I'm gonna go back in history here, and I'm gonna bring this chart all the way back to. Oh, actually, let me go to the year. Okay, here we go. So I want to go back to where was it? No, that's not what I
2006,
want. Oh,
2007.
here we go. Here we go. Here we go. I got it. Okay, there we go. Perfect. So where the level you're messing with right now, which is the the $4, $5 range, that's a big spot. Why am I? Oh, here we go. But the real big spot is back in 2000. All right, here we go. So this is where it gets really interesting. Now, this is, of course, split adjusted, right? But if we move forward here, we're in this area right here. This is where I'm focused. And the reason I'm focused here is because I'm looking at that spot that we are currently sitting at, which is it's not an accident that this 350 level is acting as resistance. If you go back to 2011, 2010, you could see that this was an area where it was resistance. So if you can break through $4, I'm going to call it, and you hold that, then I think your next level of resistance, and it's not a big level, it is a level where you're going to have congestion and resistance is going to be $5. Now, why is $5 important? $5 is important because a lot of funds cannot buy stocks that are priced below 5, right? So you break through 5 and a whole nother category of investors opens up, right?
Yeah.
That's where I think it gets very, very exciting. Okay. After that, the next level of resistance is right around 7 and change. Okay, that's where you have another big area that
Mm,
could act as a big resistance area. But then you take that out, and it's like almost a little blue sky area. There are some areas of resistance, but they're very small, is the way I would say. So breaking through those, I don't think is a huge challenge. And as I look at the company, I look at what the company was back then, right? 2009, 2010, they are nothing. This was nothing like the company that exists today. It's not remotely comparable. And that's why I'm so excited
yeah,
about where this company is headed, right? I mean, I look at where you're at right now. Look at this spike. You've had a very nice spike. I mean,
yeah,
it's almost straight up. So I would not be surprised if you see a consolidation. I don't.
sure.
You might get a little bit of a drift down, but the other thing to remember or notice or take notice of is the volume. The volume on this pop up was very strong. Okay,
Yeah.
that's a very positive thing. Heading into the end of the year, people are positioning for next year, right? This is a very nice move, and you have very clear catalyst. The germanium thing, let me ask you a question. Are there performance variances between germanium and BD6 that would be a problem at all?
Yeah. So that's the reason for the portfolio of materials we licensed from NRL. One material alone, which is, used to be for Lightpath only BD6, that was really the only material. That one material alone cannot replace germanium alone. And that's why it, never really took off in big time, because the material is very different from germanium in some aspects. But throw in now the new materials that we licensed and commercialized from NRL, and all of a sudden you have a portfolio of materials to choose from. So for different applications, you can optimize the material. And now you not only equal performance of germanium in some aspects, you outperform it in many other aspects. So nothing is as straightforward there. This isn't a plug and play. I'll take the germanium lens out, put a black diamond lens in. But now the tool set that we give the engineers is much more wide and robust than anything they had 3 years ago. And so now with these new materials from NRL, plus the classic BD6, you can now give a engineer a toolkit that far exceeds the performance of germanium.
Okay, okay. So that's a big positive.
That was a very, very important step in this. If we would have not had the license and the commercialization of those NRL materials, BD6 alone, which is also available for some other companies like Shot and Vitron and such, that material alone could not completely replace germanium.
Okay, okay. So that's an important thing to know.
Yeah, which is why we often talk now about the Black Diamond portfolio of materials and not just about BD6.
Okay, got it. Got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So there's a lot more behind the curtain.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot more behind the curtain. And, what we're seeing now behind that curtain, to give a sneak peek, is overwhelming demand on the replacement of germanium, which is great. Some very large opportunities like the Lockheed Martin and such. Both of those together, plus the camera business, which is now becoming 20-30% of our revenue in the last quarter and growing rapidly, that's bringing us to profitability. We've now gone from a company that was struggling to even maintain cash flow in the past, to maintaining good performance, to a company that in the next 12 months is going to turn profitable with a strong top line growth. And that is just exponential.
All right, so I guess maybe the other thing that people could focus on is that the camera industry is not exactly there's not a bunch of chumps there. There's some big players there. right?
There's a big 800-pound gorilla, FLIR, acquired by Teledyne, so now Teledyne FLIR, but definitely a big gorilla there. Yeah.
But you still have found a way to take some share. And why is that, Sam?
The reason is, we focus on value creation, right? And you mentioned the other podcast, and I keep preaching this also to my team. An idea could be great, a technology could be incredible, a product might look great. You always have to ask yourself, how am I creating a value to the customer? And when it comes to cameras, we found ways through Visimid, which we acquired a year and a half ago, and some internal developments here. We found ways to create value in the form of allowing customers to do things that prior to this required the very expensive cryogenically cooled cameras from FLIR, those $100,000 cameras that you mentioned, to now do that with a uncooled, what's called a microbolometer camera that we sell for $10,000, $15,000, $30,000 for the really high ends. And so the value here is not being lower cost, because that's not the key here. The value here is that we allow the customers to achieve much more with the capital money they have. So if you're in a power plant now and you have a capital budget every January 1st that comes into play to spend on maintenance improvements, on equipment, and things like that, with our cameras now, you can achieve much more with the same dollars. And so what we're seeing is that the customers that prior to this might have been buying, one cryogenically cooled camera and taking it around the power plant to look in different places every day, now is using that same money to buy 10 cameras costing $10,000 and putting them stationary to look at 10 spots all the time, 24/7. So the value creation, again, is not being cheaper, because that's tough to maintain in the long term. The value creation is we're allowing customers to now do 24/7 monitoring instead of periodic monitoring. And when you talk about predictive maintenance and what you can do with that, that is just incredible information for them.
Right.
This is taking down a boiler in a power plant can be $1.5 million a day of cost, lost revenue and direct cost. Preventive maintenance, predictive maintenance, being able to monitor that boiler 24/7 because you can afford 10 cameras instead of one, that can save you literally millions down the road, not needing to take it down unnecessarily.
Yep. And that's what Lightpath, that's the differentiator, right?
It's all about value creation, right? It's all about find a way to create real value for your customers, and then, as importantly, capture that value. If all you're doing is being a low-cost provider, as Lightpath tried to be in the past, you cannot capture that value long term. There will always be someone else coming in with a lower cost, and you adjust it, and price will go down. The classic downward spiral. If the values that you're creating is by adding more features, by adding more capabilities, by letting the customer do 24/7 monitoring for gas leaks instead of, once a day, then the value you're creating is one that allows you to capture it through sustained profits into the future, which is why, I'm so certain that we're on the path to turn profitable soon.
And to be clear on this, you have your own engineers, right? You design things.
We design things. We have quite a bit of engineers in the USA. We design them, we prototype them. We're vertically integrated all the way from making the glass, polishing the lenses, building the assemblies, putting the camera together, software for the camera, building the whole system, all the way through. You don't find a lot of companies that are vertically integrated to that level.
Let me ask you a question on especially with the Lockheed Martin. Have you become a program of record?
That is a program of record. That's one of several program of records that we have. We have the Lockheed Martin, we have the Apache, we have a few others. By far, the Lockheed Martin is the biggest one. It's a program of record. It's a replacement of Stinger, or the NGSRI called, and that is a interceptor missile that Lockheed is developing, while at the same time, Raytheon are also developing a similar product. So typically when it's a program of record, there is one supplier for it. And by the time it's a program of record, you know who the supplier is. This is a very unique situation. The Army, even though it has it as a program of record, meaning in the federal budget and Congress approved it, lets two companies develop a solution here to get to the market faster and to get to potentially a better solution. Raytheon are taking a traditional approach where they are essentially just refreshing the design of the old Stinger missile with new components, but the design is the same. Lockheed is taking a completely different approach with us based on our cameras. That's really the differentiators there. That if it works, is going to significantly outperform the Raytheon solution. So the Army here went and took a very unique approach. They said, okay, we have here the sure and the sure bet one where we can go with Raytheon, and it will definitely work, but it will not be anything new. It will just be the same Stinger refreshed. Or we can go with Lockheed, which, if it works, is going to significantly outperform it. But there's a if part to it because it's a new technology. In a case like that, usually the Army would let both companies just develop a prototype and take their time to evaluate and then decide who gets a program of record. But the Army is running out of missiles. Ukraine has depleted the inventory. And so the Army did something very unique here, and he fully funded both Raytheon and Lockheed all the way to develop into production both missiles. Why is that important for us? It's important for us because it means that regardless of if the Army chooses a Raytheon solution or the Lockheed solution at the end, we still have a product that we fully developed with Lockheed. And that means that even if this program gets awarded to Raytheon, that technology and that product is going to get used by Lockheed in other systems.
Right.
So we're all but, guaranteed, if you would, that this is going to become real revenue. Is it going to be the $50 to $100 million a year revenue? That I put it a 50-50 chance. Is it going to be one of the other programs that we're in? Because Lockheed is already integrating us into 2 more missiles. Yes, we're definitely going to see the $10 to $20 million a year from those programs. So one way or another, we're going to be in programs of record in these missiles for many years to come.
And that's a huge thing. It opens it. Program of record, just so everybody understands, isn't just that division, or it's not just the Army. It opens you up to the Navy. It opens you up to the Marines. It opens you up to, right?
Foreign military sales. That's a very big part. Look at the F-35 today. I mean, just the amount of F-35s being sold to foreign militaries is, I don't know the numbers, but I would guess it's somewhere even, pretty close, if not exceeds, the number of F-35s built for the Army.
Right. And I mean, it also opens up to NATO countries. I mean, it opens you up to a lot of different avenues.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. And those are all potentially massive opportunities.
They're potentially massive because you just need to look at where the world is going to, right? I mean, unfortunately for us as human beings, it's a direction, but for business, as they say, war is good for business. So,
not that you're warmongers, right? I mean, there are good uses for your stuff, just like talk about gas detection, all that.
Yeah,
and that is all good uses, but we can't ignore the fact that yes, we do have to protect ourselves as well, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, Sam. If you have one thing you would want to convey to anybody that's potentially looking at taking Lightpath as an investment, what would you say to them?
We changed the company around. We're definitely not your grandfather's Lightpath, if you would, as the saying goes. And we're on path to considerable growth because of these exclusive capabilities we have and on path to turning profitable in the next 12 months.
So here's what I want to say. I want to say this. If you are someone that likes a company that builds things right here in America, if you think that providing jobs for people here in America to manufacture things is a good thing, I would say that this is a company that you really want to take a hard look at. I would also suggest that, Sam came into this company when COVID hit, found out that he was being embezzled
Yeah.
through China, had to deal with that. I mean, this man has came into a situation where it's not uncommon to have these issues. It's just pretty uncommon to have them all at once. And he had them
Yeah.
all at once. It was quite the challenge. Done a masterful job on turning it. It's taken longer, I think, than you wanted it to.
Always does.
Look,
Made it, yeah,
you can't control everything, right?
exactly.
Uh, do I think the boat has been missed on this because of this recent move? I don't. I look at this company, I look at where it's come from, I look at what it is today. There is no comparison. I want to reiterate that fact. This is a whole different animal. It is a beast, and it's just beginning. That I can't emphasize that enough. So I'm not telling anybody to buy the stock. That's not what I do. What I do is I present opportunities that I think make sense. And do I think this run that it's had, this is the end? No, I actually think this is the beginning. It's been in a long-term downtrend for a reason. It's justifiable. But this is the beginning of a new uptrend because why? It's a new company. That's really the reality of it. Is a brand new company that just happens to have the same name that it's had for a long time, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
New leadership, and it's not just Sam. Sam, you've built a good team around
It's
you.
a whole team. I mean, it takes a village. I mean, if it was only me, I probably wouldn't sleep at night because I'd be worried of too much dependent on me. My goal in life, which was just successful by going on a week vacation without opening my phone, is to have an incredible team that actually runs a company and executes. And that's what I have now. So
Right.
you're absolutely right.
Yeah. So if you're not in it, put this one on your radar. I do think you're going to have a little resistance here. You might have a light volume pullback. That's actually what I'm kind of seeing as a little bit of light volume. This is a story that's just getting started. This is an interesting area. If it closes over 4, I think that's a very positive thing. And there was an analyst that just came out and stepped out on the edge and put a new price target on it of $4. That to me was look. I'm glad it was a positive. I don't think he really stretched.
Yeah.
I think the next area that is critical is $5. I think that's a big spot. And then remember, if it closes above 5, who is able to then come in and participate? That's when the real money, the big boys, can
Yeah.
start paying attention. So that's it. Sam, what do you think you have as potential catalyst in the next, I don't know, 6 months?
The growth because of the germanium. I mean, China is really being serious now about not selling germanium to the US, and we have the alternative for that 25-30% of the market of the optics. So that's a very big short-term growth that we're going to see and going to need to increase our capacity. The camera sales are going to grow our top line simply because of the large ticket number to them and the growth they're going to drive, and then turning profitable over the next 12 months.
All right. Now, I would be remiss if I did not ask, because I know people are going to ask about the capital structure, right? How are you on cash? It's because here's what happens. You get positive momentum. As soon as you get some rise in the price, it's
Yep.
it's just common. Then the next thing you know, you're diluting the shareholders. Is there a
Yeah.
need to raise capital?
No, we don't have a need for that. We took a $3 million loan in the summer for working capital, exactly for this, to drive the growth and to drive those investments. We're cash flow positive. We're not burning cash in operation. We don't raise money to then use it in operations. We're very disciplined on that. So the large investments were made. We invested nearly $10 million in our two major manufacturing facilities in Europe and the US. We have here the space, the capacity, everything that's needed. I don't need, even if you give me $10 million now, it's not going to grow the sales overnight because I don't need more capital equipment right now to grow. So
Okay.
turning cash flow positive, have working capital loan for us. I don't need to go out to the market. And as I'm happy as I am to see the share price where it is, I'm not using that and I'm not out there, raising money on that.
Okay, perfect. I mean, that's here's the other thing I love about Sam. Very transparent, right? So you've done everything you've told me you were going to do, Sam. It just hasn't been in the time frame, right? But I'm an understanding guy. I know that you can't control everything, but I knew you were the right guy. There was no question in my mind you were the right guy, and you're proving that. So now is when it starts to get really fun, I think.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's it, Sam. Thanks. Maybe if something pops up in the next couple of months, we'll have you back. We'll do it again.
Absolutely. Happy New Year, Tim.
Yeah, happy New Year to you too, man. Hold on one second. I'm going to shut this off. Thank you for tuning in to another CEO interview here at Alpha Wolf Capital. Today we had Sam Rubin from Lightpath Technologies, ticker symbol LPTH. If you enjoyed today's interview, do us a favor, give us a like. How about giving us a share? And while you're at it, make sure you smash that subscribe button. All of those things are extremely important to us here at Alpha Wolf Capital, and we appreciate you taking the time to do that. Until next time, stay safe. Alpha Wolf Capital wishes you the very best of success.